Hi, today we start our introductory course on statistics. And for that, I'm going to be using a great presentation from the OpenCourseWare. And this presentation has been created by Dr. Elizabeth Newton. So let's get started. You have some reference on the book that is used for this course. A brief outline, and we're going to start with, what's statistics? Statistics is the science of collecting and analyzing data for the purpose of drawing conclusions and making decisions. So what does that mean? Imagine you want to know a fact. Let's imagine that you want to know how many people are left-handed versus right-handed, or what is the average height of the population. Well, it's impossible for you to count every single human being on the planet and then know what's the precise, accurate percentage of left-handed people. So what you're going to do is you're going to collect an amount of data, and then you're going to draw conclusions on this data. You're going to say, well, I think that there are 10% people who are left-handed. And then you're going to make decisions based on the way you represent reality. So statistics is really a way to apprehend reality with data. Now, a second point that should not be neglected is that statistics are no substitute for judgment. In other words, you should never forget that data is just numbers, and that you need to use your judgment to interpret this knowledge. So to give an example, let's see how the meter has been defined. The meter has been defined as 1/10 million of a quarter meridian, distance from pole to equator. But it isn't exactly. Why? Well, let's first see what that means. Let's take, our planet Earth, and let's take, a meridian. Here you have the North Pole. Here you have the equator. And I'm going to take another color. Here you have the measure we're talking about here, a quarter meridian, distance from pole to equator. So if you take that distance and let's call it D, and you divide it by 10 million, so that's another 6 zeros, you get a meter, right? So that's pretty accurate. But in reality, the meter is not exactly that distance. So let's see why. The Measure of All Things by Ken Adler describes the attempt of two French astronomers to determine the circumference of the Earth. So during the time of the French Revolution. So in order to get that distance, you need all those parameters. You need to know where the North Pole is, where the equator is, and you need to assess the distance correctly. So they determined the distance between Barcelona and Dunkirk by triangulation. They needed to know the latitude of each end by measuring the height of stars. So initially they thought it would take them 7 months, but it really took them 7 years. And Méchain obtained conflicting information and he had to treat back some of his data. So essentially, this shows us that when you start with a very simple and elegant definition here, that let's define the meter as 1/10 of a million of a quarter meridian, you end up with errors. What counts as an error? Who is to say when you have made a mistake? How close is close enough? So, in other words, it's all relative. And when you have an image in your mind of the reality, well, if you want to get a clearer picture, you need to know how to use data and you need to know how accurate that picture you're getting is. And that's statistics. So I'm going to stop here, and in our next video, we're going to see how to define data and key concepts of statistics. So stay tuned.